Nobody expected Princess Beatrice to suddenly find herself at the center of another wave of royal controversy. For years, she had managed to stay relatively distant from the constant drama surrounding the royal family. Quiet appearances, a more private lifestyle, and fewer headlines had helped create the image of someone determined to live outside the chaos. But everything changed the moment court documents connected to an old royal controversy began circulating online once again. At first, most people ignored the reports. Royal rumors appear all the time, and many disappear within hours. But this situation felt different. The documents were real, archived through official legal proceedings, and suddenly social media exploded with speculation about what they might reveal about Sarah Ferguson and the environment in which her daughters were raised. Almost overnight, Princess Beatrice's name began trending across platforms. Commentators, royal watchers, and online creators started revisiting old interviews, public appearances, and forgotten stories connected to the York family. And while much of the conversation remained speculation, the attention itself became impossible to ignore. What made the situation so intense was not one single accusation, but the way people interpreted the details. The internet quickly began building dramatic narratives around parenting, privilege, and life behind palace walls. Every old photo suddenly became evidence. Every past moment was reanalyzed through a completely different lens. For Beatrice, this kind of attention was exactly what she had spent years trying to avoid. Unlike some royals who embrace constant media exposure, Princess Beatrice has often appeared more reserved. Friends close to royal circles have long described her as someone deeply protective of her private life, which is why this sudden return of old controversy reportedly caught many people around her off guard. And then came the headlines. Some articles framed the story as shocking new revelations. Others suggested hidden truths about Sarah Ferguson's parenting during difficult years following her separation from Prince Andrew. But the reality behind the headlines remained far less dramatic than the internet wanted it to be. Still, once a public narrative begins, it becomes almost impossible to stop. Within days, commentators began discussing the pressure Beatrice and Eugenie faced growing up inside one of the world's most watched families. Unlike future kings or queens, they existed in a strange position within the monarchy, famous enough to face intense scrutiny, yet often outside the protection given to senior royals. That pressure shaped nearly every part of their public image. Every fashion choice, every friendship, every appearance became tabloid material at some point. And through it all, Sarah Ferguson remained both a protective figure and a controversial one, loved by supporters for her openness and personality, criticized by others for years of media scandals and public missteps. Now, with court documents returning to public discussion, old debates were suddenly alive again. But perhaps the most surprising part of the story was not outrage. It was sympathy. Many online reactions began shifting away from scandal and toward empathy for the royal daughters themselves. People started recognizing what it must feel like to grow up under relentless public judgment, where even decades-old stories can suddenly return without warning. And for Princess Beatrice, the emotional weight of that reality may have been far heavier than any headline could describe. Because in royal life, the past never fully disappears. It waits quietly until the world decides to look at it again. As media attention intensified, royal commentators began revisiting moments from Beatrice's earlier years that had once seemed insignificant. Old interviews resurfaced. Public appearances were analyzed frame by frame. Even family photographs from years ago suddenly carried new interpretations online. And that is the strange reality of royal life. A moment that once passed quietly can return years later with an entirely different meaning attached to it. For Princess Beatrice, this renewed spotlight reportedly became deeply uncomfortable, not because she was directly involved in any legal issue, but because public attention has a way of expanding beyond facts. Once people become emotionally invested in a narrative, speculation often grows faster than truth itself. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson once again found herself facing the same cycle that had followed her for decades. Public scrutiny, headlines, questions, and endless commentary from people convinced they understood what life inside the royal family must have been like. Yet those closest to the York family have often described something very different behind the scenes. Despite controversy and media pressure, Many accounts over the years have portrayed Sarah Ferguson as intensely devoted to her daughters, someone who, regardless of public mistakes, tried to create warmth and normalcy inside a world defined by rules and constant observation. But public opinion rarely focuses on complexity. It prefers simple stories. Heroes, villains, scandals, secrets. And as online discussions grew louder, the emotional impact on Beatrice became part of the conversation itself. Observers noticed she appeared increasingly careful during public outings, more reserved, more distant from unnecessary attention. Not dramatic changes, but enough for people to speculate that the renewed media focus was affecting her privately. At the same time, others defended her strongly, arguing that children of public figures often inherit controversies they never created themselves. Social media became divided between those chasing sensational theories and those calling for empathy and restraint. And somewhere in the middle of all of it stood Princess Beatrice, silent. No interviews, no public response, no attempt to fuel the headlines, just silence. But sometimes silence becomes the loudest reaction of all, because refusing to participate in public drama can say more than any statement ever could. And perhaps Beatrice understood something many people forget in moments like these, that not every accusation deserves performance, and not every rumor deserves an answer. Still, the emotional pressure of living under that level of attention cannot easily be ignored. Imagine waking up to find millions of strangers debating your childhood, your family, and your private life based on fragments of information they may never fully understand. Imagine carrying the weight of a surname recognized around the world, where every controversy attached to your family becomes part of your own public identity, whether you choose it or not. That is a reality many royals quietly live with. And in moments like this, the glamour people imagine around royal life begins to fade, revealing something far more human underneath: pressure, isolation, and the exhausting feeling of constantly being watched. In the end, what began as another shocking round of headlines slowly turned into something far more reflective, because beneath the dramatic titles, viral clips, and endless speculation was a much deeper reality that people often forget when discussing royal families. They are still human beings living under extraordinary pressure. For Princess Beatrice, this moment was never truly about internet rumors or sensational commentary. It was about watching pieces of the past return once again, knowing the world would analyze every detail without ever fully understanding the personal impact behind it. And perhaps that is the hardest part of royal life. Not the cameras, not the headlines, but the feeling that history never really lets go of you. No matter how much time passes, old stories can suddenly return and reshape public perception overnight. And while audiences move on quickly to the next controversy, the people inside those stories are left carrying the emotional weight long after the attention fades away. As for Sarah Ferguson, opinions about her may always remain divided. Some will continue to see controversy. Others will see a mother try and protect her daughters while navigating one of the most unforgiving public environments in the world. But the full truth behind any family is rarely as simple as the headlines suggest. And maybe that is the lesson hidden beneath all of this, that public curiosity often reduces complicated human lives into short dramatic narratives, while the real emotions, struggles, and private moments remain invisible to everyone watching from the outside. Princess Beatrice may never publicly address these renewed discussions. She may continue doing exactly what she has done for years, remaining composed, staying private, and refusing to let public noise define her entire identity. And in many ways, that silence may be her greatest strength, because while the world chases scandal, mystery, and outrage, some people survive simply by refusing to become consumed by it. In the end, headlines fade. Speculation disappears. Public attention moves on. But dignity, quiet resilience, and the ability to keep moving forward despite constant judgment, those things last far longer than any viral story ever will. And perhaps years from now, people will barely remember the headlines themselves. The dramatic phrases, the viral reactions, the endless online debates will eventually disappear into background like so many royal stories before them. But what will remain is the image of someone trying to live quietly while carrying the weight of family constantly placed under public examination. That is something few people can truly understand. Because behind palace gates and public appearances are individuals who still experience embarrassment, pressure, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion just like anyone else. The difference is that their hardest moments often become entertainment for millions of strangers. And maybe that is why Princess Beatrice's silence throughout all of this feels so significant. Not weak, not avoidant, but controlled. A quiet decision not to allow chaos to speak louder than character. And in a world where everyone rushes to explain themselves online, that kind of restraint has become increasingly rare. So while the internet continues searching for scandal and hidden meaning, perhaps the real story is much simpler than people think.